All right, so I have to stop in the middle of chapter 10, 9. So moving on. So Rita, so was that Rita? Rita had wound on her head. There was a falling rock, and then that hit her, and it was bleeding. I'm sorry, I said, and asked to hold the compress while I read Al's typewritten and laminated list on the inside of the lid. I started hunting for it. Now, where does that get us? I've never done stitches before. Everybody was crowding around by this time, except for Troy, who was hanging back. He looked as pale as Rita. I guess it was true that what he said about he couldn't take the sight of blood. Me, on the other hand, I'd make the pretty good emergency nurse, if I knew anything, that is. I can do it, Freddie said. Nobody was going to take the job away from him. Are you sure? Rita said. Don't I get a shot or anything? Good question, Rita, I said, and looked through the list hoping to find some kind of local anesthetic. No such luck. Apparently, Al wasn't a practitioner of painless surgery. The cut was right on Rita's hairline. Freddie called for a razor, soap and water, and peroxide. Adam had recovered enough to hang around and banter with Rita, who was starting to enjoy being the center of attention, now that she could see she wasn't going to drop dead. When Freddie was set, Adam yelled, Hold everything, then scurried along the water line and came running back with a small driftwood stick. For her to bite on, she explained, like in the movies. Up close, I watched Freddie sue as Rita stifled the screams. She bit down hard on that stick, tears running down her face. Pug was holding her head still and was clearly enjoying the job. Freddie's fingers were quick and deft. It was obvious he knew what he was doing. He made one stitch toward one end of the cut and then tied it with a twist of the needle pliers. Then he did another stitch on the other end. I would have thought you sewed like you do with clothes, I remarked. You know, around and around with the same thread. How come you know how to do this? He smiled. Oh, I've sewed up plenty of sheep. And that the driftwood stick went flying from Rita's mouth, and everybody was laughing. Sheep? He sewed up sheep? I'm not a sheep. One more stitch in the middle, and Freddie was done. Rita fought her way free of Pug's embrace and ran after Adam, who was blatting in at her in an uncannily sheep-like manner. Come back here, you ninja assassin scumbag. It was mid-afternoon already. We ate lunch, and there was talk about camping as soon as possible. Nobody really wanted to press on, even if we hadn't covered our mouths for the day. We'd make them up tomorrow. Before long, we came to an immense overhang on river left. We beached and ran up under that roof. The cavern was like a domed stadium, with a playing surface of fine sand. The ever playful Adam sprinted back to the boats and returned with a pie plate to toss around. We quickly agreed that we'd never find a better camp. We threw the pie around the tin and we were exhausted from all the running. Even Star joined in for a little bit, though she couldn't really throw or catch very well. It was good to see she was feeling better and focusing again. After a while, Star and Rita and I drifted way down to the end of the cavern along the water line. We had a project, getting Rita cleaned up and back to normal. Now that the emergency had passed, she was pretty distressed about her appearance. With all the dried blood on her face and in her hair, she did look like a massacre victim. It looked like a bit of bottle of shampoo and a lot of careful work around the stitch could cut to restore her hair to normal. She had such thick black hair and it was all matted together, almost glued. My fingers worked the suds in the while Star poured gently water from a bale bucket. We even gave Rita the cream rinse treatment after the shampoo. Rita's really settled down. I wouldn't have thought, as perpetually hyperactive as she was, that she had it in her to sit like this. The way the three of us were, it was almost as if we were performing a ritual, and Rita was very soothed by it all. Now, if we could just keep her hair from getting into the stitches while the cut was healing. A French braid, I thought, aloud. Rita, how would you like your hair in a Rita, how would you like your hair in a French braid? I can do it, and I think I would really look nice. It would really look nice. For once, Rita didn't seem to know what to say. I'll bet she never had anyone fussing over her hair before. I didn't wait for an answer, just started parting her thick hair into sections and braiding it. Not too tight, I told myself, so it doesn't pull on the cut and the stitches. We were sitting a few feet back from the water, in the warmth of the sunshine, and feeling good. Star left for a few minutes and then returned with her tarot deck. As I was braiding Rita's hair, the wild woman closed her eyes, faced the sun, and discovered the power of meditation for what I would guess was the first time in her life. Star spread out her blue silk scarf a little way down the beach, scribbled a question on her notepad, and slowly began to lay out the cards. None of the three of us spoke. Rhythmically braiding Rita's hair, I glanced from Star to the river, to the cliffs, and back to Star. The song of the canyon wren was there with us. Water and music blended together and piped from the throat of that nondescript like little bird. Such an ordinary looking bird, I thought. To give voice to the calm water against the margins of the river, the crystalline quality of the light in the pure dry air, all of it was expressed in that falling stream of droplets that was the canyon wren's song. Whatever happened downstreams, I thought that this beauty right here, right now, makes it all worthwhile. The moment took me back to times with my dad. There had been times like this one, more than a few. One I'll never forget was when we watched a sunset from the top of one of Colorado's 14,000-foot peaks, Mount Wilson. And we saw those hundreds and hundreds of peaks in the Anchorage and the San Juans all bathed in that glowing light. I found myself wishing my dad could be on the river with me, that it could be like it was when years before it had all got so confusing. He would appreciate it so much. Gone are the days, I thought. I wonder if I'll ever share those feelings with my dad again, now that he has Madeline. I'd finished braiding Rita's hair. My hands were still. She really looked pretty with her hair pulled back like that. Neither of us spoke for a while, and then she said, "Thanks, Jessie," and got up and wandered back to the kitchen, where almost miraculously the guys were cooking dinner all by themselves. I went over and sat by Star and looked at all the pretty cards laid out in front of her. The sunlight had left the beach and goosebumps were popping up on my arms. She turned to me with a little look of relief. "What is it, Star?" I asked. "What's the outcome?" With a delighted look on her face, she held up a card that said, "The Star." It depicted a young girl pouring water from two vases, one into a clear pool and one onto the shore. In the background was a ring of stars encircling one large star. "Pretty special," I said. "What does the star mean?" "Inspiration and hope, spiritual gifts." "Good," I said. "I'm so pleased for you." I was happy to have Star feeling better, even if it took the cards. Good thing she hadn't thrown some awful, scary reading. The guys were beating the propane bottle with a crescent wrench, our dinner bell, as it were, and Pug was hollering at us for good measure in the voice of a little boy who's discovered himself doing something good and was anxious to have admiration heaped upon him. I'd be happy to oblige. I was hungry. As I was getting up, I noticed a bright star rising on the horizon and circled with companions. "Look, Star, especially for you." That night, everybody sat around a bonfire of driftwood, enjoying the glowing warmth of the flames. We talked and we laughed. We heard a few stories. Adam was a master storyteller, mostly of autobiographical tales. I wasn't doing much talking. I was with Troy, leaning back against him and enjoying the feel of his arms around me. Troy and I stayed talking softly long after everyone else drifted away. I asked him what it was like going to private schools back east. He told me he'd been kicked out of the last three for not following the rules and showing other kids that they didn't have to either. I'm so tired of all that, he said. I want to get on with my life. At this last school, the one where he was before he came to Hoods in the Woods, he lasted only 2 weeks. I got the feeling something more serious had happened there, but he didn't elaborate, so I let it drop. Our whispering meandered into night along happier paths until finally we weren't speaking at all. That was just the sound of the river, the incredible starry sky, and us, the King of Hearts, and the cards were right. That's for chapter 9.